Australia is in trouble, and not just from kangaroos on highways or wild weather. According to recent climate and urban studies, up to 10 major Australian cities could face serious collapse by 2025. We're talking about rising sea levels swallowing suburbs, crippling housing markets, water shortages, blackouts, and even mass migrations. Yes, you heard that right. Entire communities may be forced to leave the cities they call home. You might be thinking, surely Sydney or Melbourne are too big to fail, right? Well, that's exactly what we thought, until the data started pouring in. Cities once considered safe and stable are now being called high-risk zones by urban planners and environmental experts. So, what's going wrong? Is it just climate change, or is there more beneath the surface? Overcrowded streets, collapsing infrastructure, natural disasters, and political inaction are all playing a dangerous game, and time is running out. In this video, we're going to uncover the 10 Australian cities teetering on the edge, explain what's really happening behind the scenes, and why experts believe 2025 could be the breaking point. Stick around, some of these cities will shock you, and if you live in one of them, this might be your wake-up call. Number 1. Sydney. Sydney, Australia's iconic harbour city, known for its stunning skyline, vibrant culture, and bustling streets, might not seem like it could be in trouble. But beneath its glittering surface, the city is facing a crisis of epic proportions. Sydney is teetering on the brink of collapse, and it's not just about rising sea levels or the occasional flood. This is about the city's overwhelming growth, crumbling infrastructure, and a housing crisis that could turn Sydney from one of the world's most livable cities into a place that's simply no longer sustainable. With an ever-increasing population, around 1,000 new residents every week, Sydney's infrastructure is being stretched to its limits. Roads are gridlocked, public transport is overcrowded, and the cost of living is skyrocketing. The average house price has nearly doubled over the last decade, pushing homeownership out of reach for many. But it's not just the housing market that's at risk. The city is facing flood risks that could impact millions of people. Experts predict that rising sea levels could swallow parts of Sydney's coastline, including the famous Bondi Beach and Circular Quay. To make matters worse, there's a critical shortage of affordable housing to accommodate the influx of new residents, leading to an increase in homelessness. If that weren't enough, Sydney's power grid is also struggling to keep up with demand. As temperatures rise, the city is seeing more frequent and intense heat waves, which put even more strain on its already outdated systems. Without drastic changes in urban planning and resource management, Sydney's future could be in jeopardy. So, what can Sydney do to save itself from this looming disaster? Stick around as we dive deeper into potential solutions in later sections. Number 2. Melbourne. Melbourne, Australia's cultural capital, is famous for its coffee culture, art scene, and unpredictable weather. But don't let the charm fool you. Melbourne is facing a crisis that could turn its lively streets into an unbearable oven. In the next few years, extreme heat waves will become a norm, pushing the city's infrastructure, resources, and residents to the breaking point. Melbourne is known for its 4 seasons in one-day weather, but what's on the horizon is far more extreme. Experts predict that by 2025, Melbourne will face intensifying heat waves with record-breaking temperatures that could make life outside nearly impossible. Heat-related deaths are already rising, and this is just the beginning. As urban heat islands, areas where the city retains more heat than rural surroundings, spread, the heat will be even more unbearable, making Melbourne one of the most unlivable cities in Australia. But it's not just the heat. Melbourne's transport system is already notoriously congested, and as more people flock to the city, the gridlock is expected to get worse. Commuter chaos could become the new normal, leaving Melburnians stuck in traffic for hours. Add to that the increasing risk of flooding due to the rising Yarra River, and Melbourne's infrastructure is quickly becoming outdated and overworked. So, what does Melbourne need to avoid becoming an oppressive, uninhabitable city? Can it adapt in time, or will it be left struggling with a future too hot to handle? Stay with us to find out how Melbourne can turn things around, or if it's already too late. Number 3. Brisbane. Brisbane, the sun-drenched capital of Queensland, might be known for its laid-back vibe and outdoor lifestyle, but the future isn't looking so bright for this thriving city. With the twin threats of flooding and overpopulation, Brisbane is teetering on the edge of a disaster that could leave it unrecognizable by 2025. Brisbane already faces frequent flooding, with the 2011 floods still etched in the memory of its residents. However, climate change is expected to make these events far worse, with more intense and frequent storms likely to bring devastating floods to the region. Rising sea levels are also predicted to submerge parts of the city, including popular areas like South Bank and Fortitude Valley, potentially leaving thousands of homes and businesses underwater. On top of that, Brisbane's population is skyrocketing, with the city expected to grow by nearly 500,000 people in the next decade. This explosive growth is putting even more strain on the city's already outdated infrastructure. Roads, public transport, and essential services are all struggling to keep up with the demand. With so many people flocking to Brisbane in search of opportunity, the pressure on housing is immense, pushing property prices higher and leaving many people unable to afford a place to live. Can Brisbane overcome the challenges of flooding and overcrowding before it's too late? Or is this once thriving city already drowning in its own growth? Stick with us as we uncover what must be done to rescue Brisbane from the brink of collapse. Number 4. Perth. Perth, Australia's isolated western gem, has long been praised for its laid-back lifestyle and stunning beaches, but beneath the surface, the city is grappling with an existential crisis driven by water scarcity and a crumbling economy. In just a few short years, Perth could face an uncertain future where basic resources become harder to come by. One of the biggest threats to Perth's survival is the severe drought affecting the region. Water levels in the city's reservoirs are at alarmingly low levels, with experts warning that the city's traditional water sources may be completely depleted by 2025. The problem is compounded by the fact that climate change is predicted to reduce rainfall even further, making Perth one of the driest cities in the country. The city is already relying on desalination plants to supply fresh water, but this is an expensive and unsustainable solution in the long run. To make matters worse, Perth's economy is heavily reliant on mining and resource extraction, industries that are already beginning to decline. With global demand for minerals slowing and alternative energy sources rising, Perth faces the very real threat of an economic downturn that could leave thousands of people without jobs. As industries close and workers move elsewhere in search of opportunity, Perth could experience a mass exodus, further straining the city's already fragile resources. Can Perth adapt to these overwhelming challenges? Or will the city face a future where its droughts and economic woes make it an increasingly difficult place to live? Stay with us as we explore how Perth can fight back and whether it can avoid a grim fate. Number 5. Adelaide. Adelaide, once a thriving cultural and industrial hub, is now facing a future that's anything but certain. With an aging population, declining industries, and an economy in freefall, Adelaide is rapidly becoming a city in crisis, one that might struggle to survive in the next few decades. One of the biggest challenges Adelaide is facing is its shrinking workforce. The city's population is aging fast, and as the baby boomer generation grows older, the demand for healthcare and retirement services is skyrocketing. At the same time, Adelaide is experiencing a brain drain, with younger people leaving the city for more opportunities in larger urban centers like Sydney and Melbourne. This loss of talent is weakening the economy and leading to a shortage of skilled workers to fill key roles in the workforce. Adelaide's economy, once driven by manufacturing and defense, is also in decline. Key industries are closing down or relocating, and the city has struggled to attract new industries that can replace the jobs that have been lost. The result? High unemployment, a stagnant economy, and rising poverty rates. As the city faces an uncertain economic future, many fear that the next few years could see Adelaide become increasingly irrelevant on the national stage. Without a drastic shift in strategy, Adelaide could become one of the first Australian cities to collapse economically, with a stagnant workforce and dwindling prospects for growth. So, can Adelaide turn things around before it's too late? Stay with us as we explore what needs to change for Adelaide to avoid slipping into a deep decline. Number 6. Darwin. Darwin, the tropical capital of the Northern Territory, is often regarded as a laid-back paradise with stunning landscapes and close proximity to Asia. However, beneath its relaxed exterior, Darwin is rapidly becoming one of Australia's most vulnerable cities. The twin threats of cyclones and rising sea levels are putting the city on the edge of collapse, and there's a very real possibility that it may struggle to survive as we approach 2025. The biggest threat to Darwin is its proximity to the tropical cyclone belt, an area known for frequent and violent storms. In the past, Darwin has been hit by massive cyclones that have caused extensive damage, but climate change is making these storms stronger and more unpredictable. Experts warn that as global temperatures rise, Darwin will face more frequent and intense cyclones, putting the city's infrastructure, homes, and economy at risk. But it's not just cyclones Darwin has to worry about. Rising sea levels threaten to flood large portions of the city's coastline, including popular tourist destinations and key infrastructure. As the waters rise, crucial areas like the Darwin Waterfront Precinct and Cullen Bay could be submerged, forcing thousands to relocate and causing widespread economic damage. To make matters worse, Darwin is also grappling with economic challenges. While the city has historically relied on mining and defense contracts, these industries are beginning to show signs of decline. Job losses are rising, and many are questioning whether Darwin's economic base is enough to withstand the pressures of climate change. Can Darwin adapt to its increasingly hostile environment, or will it be left behind by the very forces that made it thrive? Stick with us as we explore how this at-risk city can fight for its survival. Number 7. Hobart. Hobart, Tasmania's charming capital, may seem like an idyllic retreat with its breathtaking landscapes and tranquil atmosphere, but lurking beneath the beauty is a city on the brink of crisis. As climate change and economic isolation threaten Hobart's survival, this once promising city is struggling to keep up with the demands of the modern world. One of Hobart's biggest challenges is its remoteness. Located at the southernmost tip of Australia, Hobart is increasingly cut off from mainland resources and opportunities. Transportation between Hobart and other major cities is limited, and with rising fuel costs and shipping delays, this isolation is becoming more pronounced. As global trade becomes increasingly reliant on efficient supply chains, Hobart's lack of access to essential goods could leave it behind, both economically and socially. Additionally, Hobart faces significant climate-related risks. Agriculture, which is a major industry in the region, is particularly vulnerable to droughts, flooding, and temperature extremes. The city has already witnessed shrinking agricultural yields, and experts predict that these issues will only worsen as weather patterns become more erratic. As Tasmania struggles with its own food security issues, Hobart could soon find itself fighting over limited resources. Economically, Hobart is also feeling the strain of declining industries and a lack of diversification. With fewer job opportunities and a limited local economy, many young people are moving away in search of better prospects. The city's reliance on tourism and small-scale industries leaves it vulnerable to global disruptions and economic downturns. Can Hobart find a way to thrive amidst these growing challenges, or will it continue to struggle against the tide of isolation and environmental instability? Stay tuned as we discuss what Hobart can do to avoid a future of stagnation and decline. Number 8. Canberra. Canberra, Australia's political heart, is facing a future that seems uncertain despite its governmental significance. Although it may seem like a stable city, Canberra's political instability and resource shortages could push it to the brink of collapse by 2025. As the nation's capital, its future holds implications not just for its residents but for the entire country. One of the key threats facing Canberra is its growing political unrest. With a high turnover of political leadership, constant policy changes, and an environment of frequent government gridlock, Canberra has struggled to maintain long-term, sustainable solutions for issues like housing affordability, urban sprawl, and climate change adaptation. This instability makes it difficult for Canberra to plan for the future, resulting in stagnation rather than innovation. As leaders come and go, national policy often becomes reactive instead of proactive, leaving the city in a constant state of flux. Additionally, Canberra faces severe resource shortages. As one of Australia's smallest cities, its limited resources and growing population have placed immense strain on water supplies, energy, and public services. Climate change has also exacerbated these issues, with extended droughts reducing water availability. The city's infrastructure, once cutting-edge, has become outdated and is struggling to keep pace with the demands of a growing population. As if that weren't enough, economic challenges loom large over Canberra, with defense and government-related industries being the city's primary economic drivers. Canberra is vulnerable to shifts in national funding and policy priorities. If these industries face cutbacks or relocations, the city could experience significant job losses, putting further pressure on the already fragile economy. Can Canberra rise above these political and resource crises, or will it remain a city lost in the shuffle of unstable governance and resource scarcity? Stay with us as we dive into the changes needed to secure Canberra's future. Number 9. Gold Coast. The Gold Coast, often regarded as Australia's playground, known for its sun-kissed beaches, thriving tourism industry, and luxurious lifestyle, is facing a grim future. Behind its shimmering surface, the city is grappling with the overwhelming consequences of overdevelopment, environmental degradation, and an unsustainable reliance on tourism. As Australia's tourism capital, the Gold Coast's economy is heavily dependent on its appeal to visitors. However, this heavy reliance is starting to show cracks. The tourism industry, which once thrived with international visitors flocking for sun and surf, has become increasingly unstable. With global travel disruptions, changes in consumer behavior, and environmental concerns about the impact of large-scale resorts, the Gold Coast tourism-driven economy could collapse if it continues on this path. What happens when the tourists stop coming, or worse, when the environmental impact of this constant influx becomes unbearable? The city is also suffering from the overdevelopment of its coastal areas. As the population grows and the demand for luxury living increases, developers have torn through vast stretches of natural coastline, creating high-rise buildings and shopping precincts at the expense of the environment. This rapid urban sprawl has led to loss of biodiversity, increased pollution, and coastal erosion. More importantly, the infrastructure cannot keep up with the demand, leading to traffic congestion, lack of public services, and rising property prices that leave locals unable to afford to live in their own city. What will the Gold Coast do when the once booming tourist industry slows down, the environmental toll becomes too great, and the city can no longer sustain its unsustainable development? Stay with us as we explore what must change to preserve the Gold Coast for future generations. Number 10. Wollongong. Wollongong, once the thriving industrial powerhouse of New South Wales, is now facing an uncertain future as the city struggles with economic decline, pollution, and de-industrialization. Once known for its steel industry, the city is now grappling with the fallout from the closing of major factories and the loss of jobs that were the backbone of its economy. For decades, Wollongong was known as an industrial giant, home to the famous Port Kembla Steelworks. However, as the global economy shifts towards more sustainable industries, these factories are becoming increasingly outdated and unprofitable. With the closure of key industrial plants, unemployment has surged, and many residents are finding it increasingly difficult to secure stable, well-paying jobs. The once thriving manufacturing sector is being replaced by few opportunities in the service and tech industries, but these sectors are failing to keep pace with the job loss and economic stagnation. To make matters worse, Wollongong faces severe pollution from its industrial past. While efforts have been made to clean up the region, the legacy of heavy industry continues to affect the city's environment. Air quality and water pollution are still significant problems, and despite the best efforts of local governments, health risks from environmental degradation remain high for residents. Without significant economic diversification and a major shift towards cleaner industries, Wollongong may struggle to find its footing in a rapidly changing world. As industries close and pollution lingers, can Wollongong reinvent itself, or will it become another casualty of Australia's post-industrial future? Stay with us as we discuss whether Wollongong can turn things around, or if the city is already on the road to collapse. As we've seen, Australia's future is far from certain. From rising sea levels to economic decline, these 10 cities are facing challenges that could shape the course of their existence. It's hard to ignore the reality of what's at stake. The collapse of these cities isn't just a possibility, it's a looming crisis that could change the lives of millions. Creating videos like this isn't easy. It's tough to dive into these difficult truths and lay bare the risks our cities are facing. But someone has to talk about it, right? The future of our cities needs attention, and that's why I'm here, doing everything I can to make sure these issues don't go unnoticed. If you care about our cities, the environment, and the future we're all going to live in, please subscribe to my channel. It's a small act, but it helps me continue making videos like this. Videos that challenge, inform, and hopefully inspire change. Your support means more than you know. I need your help to keep these important conversations alive. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new video. And if you feel strongly about the fate of these cities, leave a comment with your thoughts below. Together, we can raise awareness about these urgent issues. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being part of this important journey. Let's keep pushing for change, one video at a time.